morning, I wake up super early to make sure I watch the episode and then run home from school to see the same episode that aired immediately after I got home from school. But yes, worth it. Because it was pre-TiVo, you know?
I'll give you a quote directly from my mother.
Okay.
What you doing, playing those Pokemans? No, Mom, this is Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, the Pokemans. Sure.
Like, well, you know, Mom, I do like Pokemon, but not this game. That's a different one I play at school.
Hey,
So,
welcome to Jarviskjir to kill a Lich.
but that's not the tangent. Tangent was I haven't played Pokemon since
Tangenting my tangent, damn it.
since
real
blue,
meta.
red and green and yellow. I haven't played since back then. Could somebody
I
with
guarantee you didn't have access to
Did you just say red,
Green.
green, and yellow?
Green is the
Pretty
Japanese
sure it
one,
was
isn't it?
blue. Pretty sure it was blue.
I said
green.
blue, red, green, and yellow. I played all four of those.
Well, green
Was Japan only.
Green is Japan only.
I know. I played it on an emulator.
Oh.
Yeah. So I played those four, but I've never played any Pokemon since then. And could somebody with my old manedness come in and play a brand new, fresh up?
Yes.
It's
They
meant for
are the
children's
same. The
You can
ones
figure it
that
out.
just
Well,
got
but there's like
announced.
6 trillion new creatures.
That doesn't change anything other than
Okay.
there are a couple of new types, but then you just Google the type chart, and then you'll learn. But new Pokemon aren't inherently different until you get to like legendaries. But interestingly, Scott, the new one that they just announced, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, and let's be honest, everyone's gonna get Eevee because Pikachu is actually super boring. Is actually a spiritual successor to Pokemon Yellow.
Oh.
Sort of
You
like a
either have
retelling
your-
with a different system.
Whoever your favorite Pokemon is follows you around outside of the Pokeball and
I
stuff.
mean, that's been going on for a long time. I mean, that was in Heart Gold, which is probably one of the better ones.
The last game I played seriously was Ruby.
The Gen 3 are probably the best.
Best gen.
The newer gens are cool, but like they just don't hold my attention.
A lot of people's favorite is Gen 4.
Gen 4 is actual garbo.
Like, no, people love Platinum.
They are wrong.
I like Gen 3, but
One of the most annoying things about Diamond and Pearl was that if you didn't choose the fire starter, you literally had a choice of Rapidash as a fire Pokemon. That was it.
Yeah.
There was one fire Pokemon other than the starter. That was just ridiculous.
Wow.
I can see that. But Sun and Moon are great.
Sun and Moon are pretty good. I tried X and Y and I really enjoyed like all the changes they made. Because there's basically like there is a story, but there's a story where there's no story.
Yeah.
I just find it very hard to finish a Pokemon
I really
game.
didn't like Black and White, and I really didn't care for X and Y.
X and Y.
Black
the
and White, I
only
didn't like.
thing I remember
No one
about
liked Black and
X
White.
Y is how utterly, completely forgettable the enemy team was. I can't even remember what they were.
Good point. At least Team Skull in the newest one are pretty goofy.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that
No, Scott. Will, you're trying to reel it in. We're not on Scott's channel. We embrace it here. If we have a 10-minute long conversation about Pokemon at the start of the episode, we have a 10-minute long conversation about Pokemon at the start of the episode.
it's a rare tangent I could actually join in on.
Fair.
Well,
But-
I'm playing Valkyrie Chronicles, but we don't need a tangent again.
That's not even a.
not
That's
what we're
that's an unrelated. You gotta tangents have to relate.
Yeah, that's just also not.
But basically, to answer your question, Scott, yes.
So I should just kind of pick up a newer one. I don't mind you. I don't have a handheld. Could I do it on a computer or?
Not really.
It would be
Because
difficult.
handhelds are.
I could do it for you. It might be
Oh.
difficult
There are technically emulators.
for like the 3DS, but they're complicated.
But I do not condone that activity.
Yeah, that's
And, yeah,
piracy.
and illegal.
Don't be a dirty crime boy. Give money to Nintendo, please.
The only reason why I pirated green and yellow is because they didn't exist in the US for me to use. So at least green came out years after red and blue did.
Can you
And yellow
stop
never-
talking about piracy in relation to my streams? Because you've done it twice today, and I don't like it.
It was past the statute, whatever it's called. Limit.
Statute of limitations.
Statute of limitations. Thank you. Why can't I think of it?
Yeah, but I don't
almost
like
said
the
something else, and I was like,
conversation.
I don't wanna say that.
Anyway, hey. Welcome to Jarviskjir to kill a Lich. We are continuing our high level adventure, level 16 adventure. Set in the past of Jarviskjir. If you've watched the other series, this is set over 1,000 years in the past. Basically, these are legends that become part of the faith of Goldport in the future of Jarviskjir. So super cool to explore. And Scott's doing something weird and dadly with his eyes.
I cut onions, man.
Man, don't do that. You don't need onions that badly that it's worth crying for over.
I like bad breath.
You know what? That's good enough reason for me. I'm back in! So, what happened last week? The heroes are on this quest because they were invited, or they were more or less demanded to do so via the current emperor of Goldport, the Empire of Yavin, and they have been heading off to Vanateth. Vanateth is where a Lich by the name of Verminus rules, and every now and again this sort of city of the dead appears in the martial plane in the same place and starts taking people and attacking people and all that sort of thing. And humans, being humans, started sort of building in the area Vanateth usually appears in, ignoring all the prophecies and and some such. And it appeared, and you have been sent to scout out the area to prepare for a possible invasion in the not-so-distant future. While scouting out, you avoided many undead beasties. Most of the undead here are laborers that do not care about your presence, although you did have to avoid a storm giant, and you fought and vanquished a silver dragon by the name of Dracaris. And where we count back in, we draw the camera to a moment of quiet after your bloody and brutal fight with Dracaris, as you look out of the open archways of the high tower, and you see Dracaris' burning, smouldering body, and the trail of destruction it left as it crashed into the lower city of Vanateth. As you sort of watch the silver scales shine as they burn, you need to work out what your plan is to do next.
I'm just gonna like nod to myself, watching the destruction, and just say subtle. It's great.
I will kind of still out of breath from my spell having ended not that long ago. So like, I'll report back in and let them know what happened and see what orders they give back. And I will cast Sending.
Now, I actually don't think I've ever seen Sending cast in a game I've run, so let me just read it real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's unlimited range. That was sort of most what I was talking to. So are you sending this directly to the Emperor?
It's whoever was that gave us the mission. If it's appropriate for the Emperor, that person. If it's appropriate for like the head of guard, that person.
It's one of those things where this mission is more or less from the Emperor's mouth. So it probably would be most appropriate to send it to the Emperor.
Okay, then hopefully he doesn't find this too intrusive. I'm gonna send the message. Scouting report. Confirmation. City has appeared in rumored area. Confession of Silver Dragon converted to his cause. The Lich is also here. We slew the dragon.
Okay.
25 words.
I annoyingly, I'd planned what would be said, and I've entirely forgotten it.
Aww.
I know, right? I kind of knew this would happen. Alright, so you hear back the voice of a young man. For you have met Emperor Pyth VI, and he is only 16 summers old. And his very regal voice returns back with, as we feared, return to Goldport. Well, Goldport's one word. We must attack. We must vanquish this foe and rid it from the face of the world.
Okay, then I will actually, I will turn to the rest of the group and say, the immediate orders from the Emperor himself is for us to return to Goldport with the intention of attacking to vanquish this at a later date. How long was the travel between here and there, Ollie?
3 weeks.
Around about 3 weeks, depending on weather and routes. I mean, you can always go faster. That was 3 weeks of sort of casual travel.
Of course.
The DM shield is somewhere around there, but you can go like almost double speed if you go super fast. The only thing you really lessen is your chance to see things, but you're going back into Empire territory, so that's not really a concern for you.
The round trip, assuming they're prepared for the immediate march back, would put us a month and a half behind on the assault, and certainly would lose the upper hand of catching them off guard. I don't know if it would be wise for us to retreat now and rejoin with an army, or to lay siege now so that the army can join and bolster our ranks. I can't make this decision alone, and honestly, do not want to.
Yeah. My character would turn to you and say, "Funny, the name's General, no?" And he'll like give you a smile. Wouldn't this be a decision a general would make? And then he'll like turn to look at like the fields if he can, like through the doorway that we came in. What is the state of the like guards that were like the guardians that you called them down? Like, what are they doing? Like, what's the giant doing? Like...
So you don't see the giant.
Okay.
Actually, give me a perception check. You don't see the giant though. That's very obvious.
That's fair.
But this is perception check. See how much you see, right?
Yeah, perception. My
And
minus
also,
one.
the way you came and the way towards Goldport, that's amazing, is the opposite direction that the dragon crashed, which is kind of what you said.
Mm-hmm.
So as you look back, you see that the Guardians don't seem... They're continuing to patrol, as if your presence has not necessarily been noticed by them. Although you are noticing a lot of the smaller undead, and it's almost all skeletal. Skeletons are definitely the flavor that Verminus likes to use. They are rushing to the site of Dracarys, as well as some of them, assumedly maybe the laborers, can become soldiers. They actually seem to be some sort of spewing from the base of the tower, more or less, from an area you never explored. But what you also see as you look up, the storm's continuing to rumble above you, and at this point you are around 40 feet away from the sort of the cloud layer that is permanent and thick here. The storm rumbles above, and you are aware that the storm giant is in that storm and watching, because you saw it retreat. You had a better opportunity to see it than Devi, who was running away from it. And you also hear... That's more or less what I can give you. The way you came, though, outside of the city walls is fairly clear.
Yeah, fair.
They aren't moving beyond the city walls very often.
So upon after like saying that about the general, obviously it was... I turned back to the group and say, to be honest, I think it makes more sense to come back with an army. But...
Yes, it is an order from His Majesty himself. We should withdraw post haste. In the first...
Or people cannot siege a city.
Exactly.
That's a ridiculous
In the first
notion.
place, we at the very least need to find somewhere to rest. I will not be able to act as your shield with any degree of usefulness in the state I'm in.
Yeah, that's another thing, Will. You are aware this tower continues up above beyond the clouds. You don't know how high.
Yeah, exactly. So then I'd be like, oh, well, I'm fine with retreating. I don't feel bad about it.
I certainly agree that retreating at least to some degree for safety is a good idea. But are we to retreat for a month and a half's time and allow them to completely set their guard? I probably spoke poorly. I said lay siege as a bit sarcastic. I meant to continue a bit of a guerrilla warfare to keep their defenses all over the place, to keep them a bit off their footing, as opposed to literally setting up a siege against one small area of their entire kingdom.
The tactic itself is not bad. I mean, keeping them off guard, keeping them on guard rather, and spread out would be useful. However, I fear if they were to bring the entire city's might against us as 4 people, we would not last long.
Well, that makes sense, but can you talk to the guy again? I almost called him the general. Can you talk to the Emperor again?
I'll point something out to you, Will, because you got that 20.
Yep.
Just because of it seems the layout of this tower, and you went a little bit down the doorways where it sort of went downwards. It seems that maybe the main army, the skeletal army, probably can't get up here quick enough to catch you if you continued going up. If they can, then they could climb up the walls. They could get up here given time. But if you were to continue upwards, and you do have that stairwell that just that Devi lockpicked, they wouldn't be so much of a factor as whatever's further up.
I can, in fact, do that. I've limited a number of times, but I can, in fact, do that. I would like to say that you make a good point. Oh God, what's your name again, Arvin?
Riel.
You make a good point, Riel. But perhaps a different tactic instead would be for us to retreat, as everybody else is suggesting, of course. But then also let out in the nearby areas, those places that we pass, the rumor that an adventuring party had actually come here specifically because they heard or had seen a dragon. They came here with the sole purpose of slaying the dragon. We take this treasure here amongst us, at least the important things, to add to that claim. And then we let them believe that this was all for that point and that alone. And anything else that got between us on the arrival and the retreat was just for this one goal. Perhaps that'll throw them off their footing rather than tipping off that there is, in fact, an army coming.
Disinformation is an essential part of warfare, yes. At the very least, I do not see that trying to spread such rumors would hurt, although such abominations as these, I'm not sure how much they depend on information warfare, to be quite frank.
Yeah, misinformation could be seen through with the appropriate magics. I don't know enough about the unliving to say one way or the other.
But at least attempting it would not cause us any harm.
Yeah. So yes, I can speak to the Emperor again. If His Majesty would not be so annoyed by it, I can speak to the Emperor again. What is it you would like me to?
Well, I was thinking with your original plan, and then your plan to retreat, and then the plan to possibly just keep up the fire as much as we can, in retreating every day. That it wouldn't be bad, but why do we need to travel back a 3-week journey? Why not tell them to prepare and come, and we wait planning. We do some scouting and we plan the best we can. We see how tensions change. We'll have more information, no?
That was my original idea, but of course you're adding more tactic to it than even that. I can bring this idea to the Emperor.
I will just give you this as a standard logic thing. No one has seen Vanatef and lived. It is less so. They need your first-hand accounts of what's there. Otherwise, sending an army here is pointless.
I gave a first-hand account.
But no, but like way more than that.
Of course.
Yeah, that is the reason why you were told to go there and get back in the first place.
No, that's fair.
So I turned to the other two of the sisters after what he said to see their opinion.
I am not involved in these conversations. I don't care. I'm going to be examining the dragon horde.
Okay.
So I turned frown at her as look back at him.
As I just walk away from this whole debacle.
Look to Riel.
Yes. So did you actually say something?
I looked to you from your opinion based off what Will said.
The most important aspect of any army is first-hand information. The army will need that before they can march effectively.
It's one of those things where you could necessarily, it's entirely probable that you are met on the way with the army.
Of course.
But retreating is definitely what you were told to do.
Of course. Either way, it'd be at least a month delay. So I say
it's worth it.
I say human tactics are always, despite the number of years I've spent with them, human tactics always throw me a bit off. I will gladly say whatever it is that you would like, but he's a relative of yours, is he not?
The Emperor, he is my nephew, yes.
Perhaps the word should come from you as opposed to from me. I don't want to seem as though I'm questioning the authority of the Emperor.
To be quite frank, I am a general in the Empire. I would rather not be seen to be questioning His Majesty's authority either. I have no spells that will transmit my words to him.
It would be me transmitting them, but with your name. But if you wish not to do this, then perhaps we should stick to the tactic of retreating.
I would say we should obey the Imperial command.
I will, of course, nodding agreement. I bring my attention over to Mikhail. So I'm like, which one is that? So Mikhail. So I turn my attention over to Mikhail and I say, though, if we did want to leave this place ablaze on our way out, perhaps make a bit of a mess, I wouldn't mind. Though disinformation, large-scale destruction, they both have their benefits.
Ollie, what? No.
Ollie, what?
No.
What the what?
I'm trying to weigh
Confirmed.
which seems like a better idea, the misinformation or the...
Give me intelligence check.
I can commune.
No, basically, I want to do the opposite, whatever seems dumber, because I'm not wise. I'm like, yeah, go out in a fire ablaze, sure.
Well,
like,
okay, let me give you the basic logic that as intelligent,
Yeah.
high-level characters you would know
Yep.
in this situation.
Yep.
The point made that this is misinformation wouldn't really work against undead.
Mm-hmm.
The undead has intelligent commanders. I mean, that giant seemed intelligent. The Lich is supposedly deviously intelligent. The dragon was intelligent. There are clearly intelligent people who you could be tricked, but are they so intelligent that they can't be tricked? Who knows, right? And as General said, there's magic in the midst of things, which makes it even more confusing. Leaving while setting things on fire? Well, what can you really set on fire? Most things here are stone. You could sort of start... You could maybe try and do some things. You are fairly sure that the tower itself is warded in such a way that any magic you could muster would not destroy it. You could destroy the crops outside, but you're already quite aware that the crops mostly exist to feed mortal slaves. So that would just sort of lessen... That wouldn't help you really in any way. You could maybe try and kill more of the guardians on your way out. Sure, maybe they just make more. It's one of those things where you could do it, but would it have really any worth?
And for the record, Will, my character also has a 9 wisdom. He's not extremely wise, which is why he's saying, well, why don't we question the king's orders and see if there's other plans?
No, I get it. It's literally two unwise people feeding each other to build each other.
But that's why we have Rael, who's more or less like, let's not do that.
No, I get it.
I'm also 8 wisdom. I'm because I'm a general. I'm like, oh no, we must obey him.
Yeah. That's funny. Well, unwise for different reasons. Yeah. That's funny.
Perhaps.
Aaron, what's your wisdom?
Aaron's not even here. Aaron's not here hearing this.
10, actually, but...
Wow, how do we all survive?
We all have dumb wisdom.
Will always like, okay, changing all saves to will saves.
So, perhaps...
I'm proficient in will saves.
Oh yeah, I've got +7, but...
Would it be a bad thing that an adventuring party came here, saw a dragon, killed the dragon, left, on the way out made a little bit of noise? I don't think that they wouldn't do that. So we could still spread the rumor. Let's spread the rumor. But I have a surprise for them as we leave.
How are you going to spread the rumor?
We will speak to all that we can find on our travels back, act as bolstering, as adventurers, talking about our latest kill and the spoils that we've retrieved from it. I know that there aren't many towns that exist between here and there, and they're probably retreating as they go, but word travels 2 directions, not just the one the feet travel in.
Bear in mind that most of those towns will be Empire lands, and we are well known in the Empire. Trying to pose as a party of adventurers might be difficult.
That's where, of course, the deception of spells come into play.
Yes, I'd forgotten temporarily that you could use that magic. Yes, that works.
Well, all right. Well, let's get out of here as loudly as possible, and then get as quiet as possible.
Agreed. But first, and I'll turn over to Rin S, because it's the name it says at the bottom of the screen. I turn over to the other character, maybe Devi?
Yep.
There you go.
Hey! I turn over to Devi, and
She's
I
putting
say,
coins in her pockets.
I say, did you find anything worth taking?
Did I, Ollie? I'm actually not looking for things particularly valuable unless they're really beautiful. I'm more looking for magical shit.
Like I said before, there's really nothing
not
of interest other than wealth, and at this point in your lives, you're not interested in just in grabbing and taking a dragon sword. It's not even that big a dragon sword. I mean, I have of all the people who's probably seen a dragon sword, Devi is probably the one, and she's probably seen more impressive ones before.
No,
It's almost like a
nothing
token
special.
hoard.
Yeah, I will like take like a token treasure from it, like just like a tiny little bauble.
So no magic items and no like even historical or significant things that might.
Well,
be
of course
like,
there'll
oh,
be
it's
things of
halfling or human.
minor historical value, but nothing of dramatic interest, no.
I mean, if there's something of value that like might be important to like a person or peoples that I know, I would take it just for the sake of gifting it to them, but not for wealth.
You don't see anything really like that.
Okay, cool.
Halflings don't really make things out of gold.
Doesn't have
Precious
to be gold.
metals. Yeah, but those are the things in this hoard.
Yeah.
All right.
Not silver, huh?
Got,
Huh?
I said gold and other precious metals.
Let's head out.
All right.
All right, how do you plan on leaving? Because you are high.
Way up. I mean, I'm always high, man.
You are a halfling.
I mean, I can fly out of here. I can make some of you capable of flying out of here. Let's see. 1, 2. So fly is 3rd level, 4th, 5th. So I can have us all fly out of here.
Okay.
Because fly for every level higher, I believe.
Yes,
you get
exactly.
An extra person.
And you can that actually is really useful for you because that means you can just fly over the walls back to where you left your horses and just leave.
Yeah, I'm gonna cast fly at a 6th level as a 6th level spell.
I'm also gonna just throw one of these on myself, just in case. You never know.
You never know. You never know when you're in a city of the dead what you might catch.
Yeah.
So you cast this spell. How do you cast this spell?
So I suggest that they all come in to like huddle up essentially, and I put my arms around them and say, "Well, just Ollie, real quickly. It's Pyth, right?
Pyth is the emperor. Yes.
Yep. May us set the undead ablaze in Pyth's name. Let us do it for him and for his future generations." And I like grab everyone like around the shoulders as best I can, and I cast the spell fly.
So what kind of happens to them, and you, but you've done this before, is for a moment there's almost like a glow around them that's very quickly sort of embers away into fire, and then nothing. As you feel the sort of weight lifted on your body, and you can fly. And at this point, you remember you've worked together before. You have flown before magically. It's no trouble. You don't have to do any sort of checks. You can just fly up and over and out if you wish. The question is anyone keeping a lookout while you do?
I want to actually, because I said we're gonna set this place ablaze, kind of, or by the light.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do a lookout, but I'm gonna drop a bomb on these people.
Absolutely.
I'm a passive perception of 19, so
I would
I'm kind
be
of always looking out.
watching out below us just because of who I am.
Cool.
It's one of those.
What bomb do you want to drop
general's eyes.
then, Will?
So, where I see like the vast majority of the army that you said was there,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna drop this bomb.
Woo! Hey!
A sunburst. Okay.
You might want to read that all by.
I'm reading it.
Okay.
So interestingly, the vast majority of the army is sort of like coalescing around the base of the tower.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this as you're leaving, there's this brilliant flash of light that just sends this radiant fire outward that starts consuming the skeletal almost horde that's coalescing below.
What's a DC?
And you just see them starting to
18.
like this vast army below is just decimated as they're not even like forming defenses. They're actually grouping up around the fallen dragon, but you just see like where they're most dense, just outwards. And then, because it's 60-foot radius, just the fire continues and knocking apart skeletons. And you can't see individual skeletons so easily at this height, but you can see just the gap that is left and remain.
Roll the 12d6?
Well, it's one of those things where you're attacking an army.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna roll it for fun.
You can roll it for fun.
I would appreciate the fun roll.
Yeah.
But this is why I was
I
talking
think
about
I think no matter what, you kill a skeleton with 12d6. So
And it's an 18 for them to pass, and they have disadvantage. So yeah,
exactly,
they're not
it's
passing.
exactly.
Why isn't that not rolling on my screen?
It's not
I've
rolling
had
on
that
my-
issue with Roll20 for a couple of days. I think Roll20 is just having a bit of a bug.
But
Yeah.
we didn't have any issues
guys,
this morning.
enable 3D
I had it.
dice, automatically roll 3D dice were just unchecked for me for some weird reason.
That's why. It's because you're the one
Mine-
doing it with that.
Oh, okay.
It probably because it's a new thing.
Yeah, because it probably updated or whatever. So
I've had it not
but,
working.
it
for
might
the last
happen to
couple
you
of
guys
days
too.
properly.
Yeah, if Will doesn't have him clicked, it won't force it on our side.
I'm
So,
aware of how it
yeah.
works.
Okay. So I do that. Kind of have like a nice smile on my face as I fly back toward the horses.
Yeah, you fly and you're starting to get back to where you left your horses. Tied them up to like one of the tattered fence posts here from probably the humans who were here before this city plane shifted on top of them. General, as you're sort of looking back, sort of as you land, you look back and you see something actually traveling. You see two things traveling down the tower. You see it's almost like the storm stretch out in a almost sort of like a billowing snake of cloud, and at the tip of it is that storm giantess. And beside it is, for the first time, based on description alone and also the sense of otherworldly dread you feel in your heart, in your soul, is Verminous, traveling atop a wave of skeletons. But almost they sort of build and move and flow beneath him, this humanoid figure wearing these very ornate headdresses and robes with almost armor plating, but it's far more ceremonial, and wielding this staff spear that he's using to command the wave as he's leaving, and flying downwards to where that sunburst was and where the dragon's fallen. Of course, when they get down there, you no longer see them because of the walls in the way, but you and no one else see Verminous for a few seconds, and you already sent to Pyth that it's confirmed to be here, but then you see him, and the method of locomotion is just so disgusting. It probably just makes your blood run cold for a few moments.
For the first time, dread in the eyes, a bit of panic in the voice. You hear me say, with prayer in your heart, take to the road, and with speed is your ally, and then and like start going as quickly as possible.
Whip off. And you guys want to go with that extra speed. And I need to look up how much faster you would travel. Ugh. Right, you want to fast go at quite
At the very least, this first day, we're fucking
At very least, for
going.
the first little while, yeah.
Going. If somebody's horsey is tired, I got one more lesser restoration left. Let's keep going.
I've got some lesser restorations.
You know what?
I've got some lesser restorations.
Good. Keep them horsies driving. Get. Yeah.
So, I imagine you have no issues with leaving as fast as possible, hearing the dread in him. And your horses, they're all war horses. They are all war horses with finest caliber. They leave with absolute speed and have no issue doing so. And then you start traveling on your way back. After a couple of days of travel, the almost pox on the land that Vanatef leaves, where the sky is permanently dark and the ground is charred and broken, is no longer there. It's of course very quiet because you're aware you're traveling through towns and villages that have been ransacked by Verminous, but no longer do you feel that otherworldly feeling after probably actually only 2 days of riding at quite significant speed. And then you start heading back to Godport.
I would say that at some point in time, not to the Emperor, because I wouldn't want to bother the Emperor with this. I would at some point in time use Ascending to give like our plan of approach to whoever is like captain of like the guard, or more or less to like meet us for a safer journey home.
Exactly.
And so with the idea of a contingent, we need to give our report to somebody of significance in case something happens to us on the travel, they can continue. Like the word needs to get out.
Let me just check the map real quick, because there may just be a place you can meet.
Or they can meet us on Archer. Because
it's one of those things where there's someone's going to be leaving from a place. So you send this off to essentially the captain of the guard, and they absolutely everything is received. They will say that someone will basically meet you on the way because they know the route you're most likely going to take. They're saying that someone will meet you from Wedford, which is one of the old Goldport cities and towns. So I'm just trying to work out how much faster you'd go. But it doesn't super matter.
No.
So after riding with, do you ride with haste as long as because basically how it is, it's not you riding and never resting. It's just you're traveling at such a faster pace. There's no downside to it other than disadvantage on perception, which
with a combination of all of my lesser restorations and bardic music, I will continue to try to drive each day as hard as we can, because the sooner we get there, the sooner we head back. I imagine others have a similar mindset, except for maybe Debbie, who's kind of complaining that she has to do this.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm actually completely happy with that. That's going to dock a significant amount of time from your journey. So it's actually only around about a week of traveling back because you're traveling at such a fast pace, and the weather is with you. You know, once you got out of that storm, sure, it's Goldport weather. Goldport has very British weather. There's often cloud, there's often rain, but it is not
a miserable place.
Exactly. It's in this far out in the farmlands, it's not so terrible. And also you're heading towards Wedford Way, which is actually quite a pleasant place. So actually on your way back to Goldport, exactly as you asked, you are going to be met by some representatives. Essentially, when you get through many of those little crossroad towns, there's a lot of crossroad towns where there's maybe a tavern, maybe a keep, a tower or some such. Actually, especially in this age, there are a lot of stone keep towers popped up around the place because humans in this day and age of Jarviskjir don't get along with fucking anyone. Halfling is like the only race that you were allowed to play, and I wasn't really going to argue against, because halflings have always got along with humans. The humans settled here, and the halflings were already here, and they got along perfectly well, because halflings usually keep themselves to themselves, and when they don't, they're very pleasant. So you actually meet up in one of these little keep towns, where there's a keep, there's a crossroad, there's a tavern, there's even a couple of shops. All the farms come together and for market. But instead of it being a market meeting when you roll in on this little town, you actually roll in on a garrison. Of course, these keeps usually do have some level of garrison, maybe a score of people or so, but this is a small contingency of an army that is ready for you when you reach this town. And it's not like they stop you as you enter, because their dogs do bark as you enter, the war dogs of the armies of Goldport. But as you enter, you are given the respect that you're deserved as you meet a multitude of soldiers. And these are regular human soldiers. There's really very little fancy going on about them. Just at a glance, because you know how this works, because you've lived in this world for a long time, most of these are led by a paladin, very similar to Riel. These paladins sort of lead the charge over a group of people who are essentially commoners who have been given very basic arms and armor. Imagine, the commoners at the army at Helm's Deep, where some of them are really competent. A lot of them are just like regular people with like bows and helmets. They will do their duty for their country, but they aren't necessarily competent soldiers. And this is much more what you have here. You have maybe 6 or so paladins in armor that is of a much lower tier of Riel, but still in a very fanatical religious way. Like texts are displayed on their armor of the words of the deceased Emperor Pyth and all that sort of thing. And as you enter, and you sort of assume that you're meant to stop here because you said that you would be meeting up with someone, and you get off your horses, you're actually met by 2 individuals. And interestingly, one of them is a dwarf. The human you meet up with is actually another member of the pyro clergy. which is the organization that Mikael is related to. All of you would know this, but the first clerics to Pyth, as he came to Goldport and created this golden land for them, they could not create his light in the way that Riel can. They could only create fire. And so the Pyroclergy was formed, and now, after generations, the clerics of Pyth usually have powers of light, but the Pyroclergy is sort of almost a much more inquisitorial branch that sort of deal with matters of magic on a much larger level. And the person you meet is a fairly old woman who is wearing these red robes, and actually has wrappings around her eyes that she can see through. You can actually see little embers of fire behind them, and wielding an orb in her hands. It's not even a staff, that has a sort of ever-burning fire inside these bands of metal. And beside her is what most of you would see as just a fairly stereotypical dwarf. Now, of the people here who aren't racist against dwarves, actually, none of you are super racist against dwarves, because the thing with humans,
probably fairly racist.
You're fairly racist against dwarves, but the thing is,
Pardon me, sir. Don't you tell me I'm not racist. Pardon me, sir.
Don't try and make my character reasonable.
Culturally, humans and dwarves have got along for a couple of human generations, but in dwarven generations, there hasn't really been many dwarven generations yet, because dwarvens are much older creatures. Of course, Riel, you being a soldier, you've learnt about all these brutal fights that you had with dwarves until around 200 years ago. But to General or Halfling, you've always got along with dwarves as well. Halflings have got along with everyone. They've never had any enemies on a grand scale, because they also don't have a nation on a grand scale. There are a lot of independent little towns and villages. So you meet with this dwarf, looks kind of stereotypical dwarven. He's wearing sort of merchant level clothing and has a sort of slightly reddish beard, a bit like when Will grows his beard out a little bit more. He's kind of like a Will dwarf, and he's wearing these sort of merchanty clothes, but does have a mace on his side and a small buckler also on his side. But he isn't doing the talking, as the member of the Pyroclergy walks up and just looks over the lot of you and says, "You returned, all alive. That is most gracious. The Emperor surely does smile upon us this day, or perhaps the day in which you fled."
Yes, it is thanks to the protection of Pyth that we have made it this far. We need to report what we have seen post-haste and start formulating tactics to assault the city.
Absolutely. I would waste no more of your time. And she sort of starts moving. She's quite old, and remember, humans don't live that long in this generation. So she's probably in her 60s and on the way out.
It's pretty old.
It's pretty old, but the D&D books say, you can live well into your 80s or longer. But that's because of cleanliness and magic and all those things. Here, well, she's doing really good at her age. And she drifts towards the actual keep itself, where she sort of motions and the doorway opens. It's not a very surprising thing. The members of the Pyroclergy are very extravagant in their fire casting. Mikael is a member of the Pyroclergy, if that explains a couple of things. And leads you in, and the bottom of this keep, the bottom floor, has been repurposed into a large war room, where this would probably be where maybe they keep some stores or some beds. There is a large table that has a large map, and it's not even a map of all of Jarviskjir. It's just a map of the Yarvan sort of nation, with wooden little symbols to represent armies, to represent where they are. Of course, most of the armies... actually, the interesting thing about seeing this map is that the armies of Goldport are scattered around. There's a good deal of them in Goldport, but because of how humans work and they sort of set all these towns out, there's little regiments all over the place, and seems to be, just at your glance at the map, the ones of you that understand these military tactics, all of you but Devi, see they're clearly in the process of bunching pretty much everyone together, aside from small amounts to defend people in
It's like all the banners are gathering.
All the banners are gathering, exactly. And then there's also Vanateth, although they don't have many. They have tokens there, but obviously they don't know the numbers, and even you can't exactly tell them the numbers.
I'll actually say, kind of to myself in my own language, which is common, but probably a different like accent or whatever.
Exactly, dialect.
I would actually say to myself, now this is a halfling's war. Like looking at the map.
So when you walk over, she stands over the map, and the dwarf does as well, though because this is not designed. Actually, the table's very low. I was going to say he gets on a step. No, he doesn't need to get on a step. He just sort of stands and sort of exhales. And he looks at a lot of you and is like, we've been fighting Verminus and Vanateth for far longer before your kind beached up. So, I know the sorts of punches he's going to be pulling. If you can even call that wretch of rot a he. And then the female is just like, well, of course, we do need all of your information so that we can form a plan of attack.
Yes, and you shall have it. And I'm immediately going to start just... I assume it's the sort of map that you can draw on easily? Just like...
Yeah, I mean, I imagine you'd have chalks and things. It would be a wooden... Yeah. It would be a stone slate with everything sort of engraved. Then wooden tokens. So chalk would be the way you'd do that.
Yeah, so I would be...
Chalk of various colours.
I would immediately start marking walls, the tower, rough, like... I mean, you said we didn't have an idea of the armies, but I would be trying to...
Well, no, exactly. Here's the thing. You've seen the forces they mustered in a very quick time. So actually go ahead and give me a... there's no, like, war check. I'm trying to think of what would be good for...
Unfortunately, I wish there was.
That would be an interesting thing to, like, maybe homebrew in 5 Ollie.
I mean, history is because that's so pre-modern day war. All old war was fought.
Exactly, you'd be comparing it to older battles.
This is the sort of thing that I would be proficient in, even if there isn't a skill for it.
Right, same thing.
Exactly,
right?
That's what I'm arguing. So, what are you proficient in?
That's why I did history as a skill.
Are you proficient in a history or an intelligence?
I am proficient in history.
Give me a history roll then for it. Oh yeah, Maggie, the Davis family are all incredibly tall, and I'm terrified to meet them.
The Cox family is even bigger, and that's my other side. Jesus.
Okay. So, while you're giving these, you're basically, you two are trying to explain everything. You're marking on the map where in Vanateth they came from, all these things. You're just basically reverberating everything, but with all that knowledge of battles before, and battles you even heard of against the forces of Verminus, because no one's really ever attacked Vanateth with a big force before, aside of your knowledge, anyway. So you're doing that. What do the other two want to be doing while they're doing this? Because this is going to be a several hourly long process.
To be honest, I would probably just hang out with the clerics, the pyro clerics, and I would kind of just like indulge in just conversation and just kind of taking it easy, really. I know that we're going to war essentially, so I'm trying to be as lighthearted as I can in the time being.
Yeah, I can actually entirely understand that. She's the only member of the pyro clergy here that seems to be of any rank. There are sort of adepts, I guess, a couple of like essentially magical squires.
Yeah, maybe I would just honestly like just shoot the shit with people that seem like they'd be interested in talking on, like, nothing too crazy. Like I said, just anyone who's
Are you going out
interested
into like
in what we're doing.
Troops?
Like I'll go even to the troops and just talk, see if any of them can have a connection. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Alter their spirits, maybe even a little bit. Like, we're going into war, but don't worry, this is something that we can handle.
It'll be fine. Yeah, exactly. So you do that. A lot of these, like I said, a lot of these troops and soldiers are just young men to middle-aged men who have been drafted to defend their nation. They're probably people here are not even from Goldport, which is the capital city. They're from Wedford, and Wedford you can actually see on the distance. It's a little bit of a raised town. You know of Wedford because it is apparently the most beautiful place in the Empire, even compared to like the palaces and throne rooms of Pyth, because There's apparently some magical thing going on there that you have been explained to you before, but because you're not very wise, you maybe didn't retain that knowledge entirely as you should have. But also, it's not something that's even understood by the people here. They just are aware of it. Something makes that place incredibly pleasant. And it's called Wedford because every noble marries there. That's where you go for your weddings. It's almost like entirely been set up there. But that's why a lot of the people here are nobles who are actually displaying like the little crest of Wedford, which is a white one with roses on it. And they are a very, very different breed to a lot of the soldiers you've maybe met before. So there's even like some bards and poets who are playing songs and things. Actually play some slightly less creepy music because of that sort of atmosphere. But yeah, it's a very interesting group of people to talk to because they're not the sort of soldiers you usually meet, and they're genuinely appreciative of the conversation and you supporting that, you telling them everything's gonna be okay because like they're going to fight the dead, which is kind of terrifying.
It's like even if I'm looking at these people like they're completely dead men walking situation. Like if I'm like most of you will die, I would never like lead them onto that. It would just be like we're gonna do this. Like how could we not? For Pyth, how could we not?
Erin, are you doing anything of interest?
Yeah, so I get fairly bored with this conversation. So I'm gonna go off. I'm probably going to disguise self as like an officer that I see. And I'm going to just poke around in everything I'm not supposed to. Any letters I could find, I open up and I read. Any like private documents, like anything fun.
Okay. Awesome. So you start doing that. So actually, this is going to be. So is it what? Do you? Sorry, my brain's going in like 4 different places at once.
That's okay.
As a DM, often it does. Scott and Ian, is there anything you want to add with your military planning? This process is taking you. So you arrived here probably sort of midday. It's going to take you into at very least the late afternoon when the sun is starting to get sort of twilight. But,
I'm very much going to take, especially as representative, both because it makes sense for where we are and who we're talking to, and also with the check that was just made on the screen. That I'm going to take second to her leadership in this. This is her army. I am just an aide that was asked to come and lend. But more importantly, I never told them, the people I'm traveling with, that I had actually seen him himself. I kept that soul-biting, like literally, like I feel like a part of me would have been like bitten away from that. I kept that to myself, and I reveal it now just in front of Riel and the rest of the people at the table that this had transpired. And it's like one of those things where I allow the gloom to set on my face. If I need to even make an intimidation check or something like that to kind of like let that across, whatever, just to make sure that they know that like this was fucking frightening.
It's like a palpable dread is the best word for it, or even terror. You know, because you didn't even see him doing anything. You just saw that he existed, and it's sort of this almost like dread terror thing that comes across him.
Wave of undead things. That's fucking otherworldly.
Exactly. So you, especially as Jarviskjir as a whole is a fairly low magic world.
Yes. Yes. You're like, oh, I saw a unicorn once. Oh, piss off.
Yeah. Piss off. Ain't no. Oh yeah, sure. Fucking Johnson glued a horn to his pony again. Right. So you do that, you sort of say that I saw him. And of course, the 2 other people at the desk, the pyro cleric and the dwarf are, they almost, like, that fear is transcended to them. And the pyro cleric says, I was not sure if the Lich itself traveled with the city of the dead. But now we know that this war will be against him and perhaps him alone.
It seems as though all of our fears have come to fruition. They've only just arrived, as the rumors say, so I do not know why it is they come. I do not know their plan or how long it takes for it to fully finish. But I know that we need to stop them for the sake of all living on this world.
We must not let that abomination walk these lands any longer.
It's when you say that, the dwarf pipes up and is like, that's why I'm here. We've been fighting Verminus but since before you came to Jarviskjir. The city of the dead, it remains for months at a time and leaves for pockets of 2 years, 4 years, 6 years. It depends. There's clerics to our gods have been trying to work out the timings and the magics behind it. But if he's here, he's here for a reason, and it's going to take some time. So we have time to build an army. And with that,
I just don't know if just an army is going to be enough. I don't know if just the might and the magic and all the powers that we've come to amass over the times that our peoples have been allied is going to be enough. I think we're going to have to reach deeper. I think we're going to have to find something deeper within to accomplish this task.
And with that, why don't we take our first little quick break?
Ooh.
Yeah, we'll be back in a bit, in around about 4 or 5 minutes. We'll see you soon.
Or not. Bye!